When they started first with the mine, it was wheelbarrows they used, and then horse and cart, and then the pug, the wee engine, and then the railway right down to where the pier is nowadays. Well, there'd be well over 1 million tons of sand taken out of there. Nearly all Lochaline men, them that worked in the slate quarries. When the war came on, the slate quarries was shut down, and there was no work for these men. And then when they opened the mine here, they transferred them from Lochaline to here. Anybody that was needing a job would get a mine if there was any available. A lot of them were Gaelic-speaking people too, and at that time there was quite a lot of Gaelic-speaking people in the place. But that's disappeared now. There's very few people speaking the Gaelic now. I would say, a happier time then than what it is now. People were more friendly than what it is today.
Interest, our main manufacturing concern was fuses, from that size for domestic equipment and electronic equipment, instrumentation, etc., up to much larger devices that are designed to protect much larger short circuits. Fuses were used from an early part of the 20th century, and discovering a means to interrupt a high short involved a design of a product with a buffer, and the buffer was sand. When you're compacting sand into something which is to act as a buffer, then it's important that there are no air gaps, little clumping, and the regularity of the shapes lead to a control over that as a performance. With a fuse you can't test it because it's gone. You can only test a sample of it. You can't do 100% testing of anything that is destroyed in the process. Like a bomb, you can't do 100% testing of a bomb to see its survival. It was determined that they had to have a sand of a high grade, and Lochaline sand was used in those early designs, which became a design standard. So that material became incorporated as a requirement, with it being a safety product. I mean, we wouldn't be measuring grains of sand individually, but there is a method using sieves where you talk in terms of different sieve holes and different proportions of residual sand within the sieve. So you work it out in terms of totally clear, 95% clear, and 100% captured. So there's a way of gauging the grain size statistically. There's a technique to using precision sieves as well. You know, they're a precision instrument. They're not just a standard sieve. They're a certified sieve, if you like, to a certain hole size, and you do it by throwing the sand in. Our current company had a tie-in with aerospace and satellite communications and things of that nature. And you can't afford to change a fuse on a satellite necessarily, so it has to be ultimately reliable. It has to perform exactly as required. Certainly, if there is a fault, then it can save other components within the satellite. You don't get the whole thing going down. So, you know, very, very important again to have very consistent grains of sand, which, when they're impacted into a fuse body, can perform to a standard. You can control that as a variable. So, you know, at the end of the day, a product which might have cost 25 pence on the open market could be tens of pounds. once you're up the gold-plated end of the highly selected product. Not a small price to pay for a satellite, you know, in relation to its total cost, including its launch and function. So they'll pay that for a component, even in the fuse industry. In the case of this sand as a component, it was a reliable component, and it became specified within design standards, which then other manufacturers took up, and certainly within the UK there was no question. Ourselves and 3 other companies used Lochaline sand.
Father came over in 4041 and he worked down at the then pier plant. Mine seems to have actually mapped out my life because I didn't know anybody else. Just stayed in Lochaline, you know. I worked eventually, well, went to school here obviously, and when I came out of school I worked in the canteen for the men then, and there was the dining room, which is now the White House restaurant. It held 24, so they had to have 2 sittings. And then they built the cubicles, this long building that's just opposite where the shop is. And some of the men each had their individual rooms. And the foreman, the 2 foremen, the fitting shop foreman, the engineering foreman, and the mine foreman, they had separate rooms, very posh rooms. They had 2 cooks and they had 4 maids, I suppose, call us. But I had to go down at 6 o'clock and wake up one of the guys that had to go in because there was the water formed in the mine during the night. And this guy had to go down every morning and pump the water out before the miners could go into this special. So sometimes if they had been merry the night before, it was a job getting them up at 6 o'clock.
That never happened.
I know, I was there.
I came home from the army. I ran in 1948 and I ran a little taxi service, which was fine for 2 or 3 years, but then people started buying cars. That ruled out the taxi service. So locally there was nowhere else I could go but to the mine. I worked in the mine from 1951 until 1960. I was engaged in various jobs, driving a pug. That's one of these wee diesel machines that carry the wagons of sand up to the entrance to the mine. And then I was in the haulage, and that was letting wagons down a very steep incline. Perhaps 3 years or 4 years after that, I worked down at the pier plant where they broke up the sand with sledgehammers and it was washed and then loaded onto ships going away to various destinations.
I came here in 1959 after the Glasgow Fair. I saw an advert in a local paper for a pug driver, as it's called, driving one of the small engines that pulled the 4 wagons out of the mine. And I came over here and took on that job. It was an internal, they were looking for an internal driver. There was an outside driver. He collected 8 wagons and took them all the way to the West Pier. And that was the plum job. If you were the longest there and you got on the outside pug, you're out in the fresh air, but the internal ones, you were underground all the time. It was a very labour-intensive mine at that time. There was a lot of men.
And Oban came from Oban and he really never settled. So he had heard about this job, thought it would be very interesting to work in the mine, and we came up in 1971. And he had worked really long hours before we came up. And my children were the kind that sort of said, who is this man coming in at 10 o'clock at night? And we came up here thinking life was going to be much easier, regular hours and more family life. Just the mine manager at that time was Sandy MacDonald, and he seemed to be of the opinion that every time some shipping firm phoned up and said we could send you a sand boat, he would just accept it. Even there were Saturdays, Sundays, didn't matter, you know, the boat came in, it had to be filled. And it came in, he even accepted one year on New Year's Eve. And they started filling this boat on New Year's Eve, and there was all the wives and the men themselves saying, but we've got to be home, we must be home for what they call the bells, you know, for 12 o'clock. And my husband came in the door that year at 5 minutes to 12. My husband worked in the workshop. He was trained as an electrician, but he actually worked over the years as a mechanic, plumber, fixer of all things. And they did all the repairs. And in those days, all the big machines, they did all the repairs. But gradually, some of the big firms like Caterpillar, they decided they didn't want things repaired on the premises. They would have to send the parts away. So the workshop was kind of wound down quite a lot. But there was a lot of men working. When we came in 1971, still a lot of men working here. And then gradually things became more mechanised, and there weren't so many.
We just had to go ahead and fight our way through the smoke as it was from the diesel engines. There was no purification at all with them, and you had to breathe smoke all the way when you were driving one of these wee engines. That was life there. Health and safety, where was it? I don't know.
It's caused a lot of trouble to put a lot of men as far as the lungs were concerned, with sand and that, silicosis.
There's only been one day in the whole years of the mine. There's only been one day.
But that was an
Caused
accident.
by, well, it was an accident.
It was an accident.
There were people died in the mine, but there was natural causes.
Yeah.
But there was only
That was
one
an
actual
accident.
accident.
By a fall off.
Fall
a
of rock
slab of
outside
rock.
the mine. It wasn't even in the mine, it was outside the mine. It was after a frosty night, I think, and this chap went down to sort of scrape away some of the opening of the sand, and a huge rock came down and crushed him.
He priced it away thinking a small part would come
Yes,
down.
but it all came down.
Much larger part came down. Scary, right?
But it was a good
Yes, that's
record
right.
to have. All these years, there was only one actual accident.
Aye, they had to, that's what they were doing, what was called scaling.
Scaling, well, he
Right,
scaled.
after a blast, you had to scale the roof, see if there was any, with a crowbar, see if there was any loose stones. And I think Mr. Price once, he was loose, and it fell at all.
This was outside Neil then, nothing to do with
It was outside.
inside
It
blasting.
was a new opening.
Yes, and went through the block.
Yes.
No, Neil.
It was a new
No,
opening.
It was
Before they
the
started to do
entrance.
that.
It was the entrance to the mine, and this bit of rock was there, and it looked dangerous. And Jerry went up.
I thought they were scaling the roof.
No, Neil, no. It was right at the very entrance to the mine, which made it all the more.
Aye, I thought it was at the start of the trackless mine, you know.
No, Neil, it was absolutely dangerous. Anyway, when the whole thing, poor guy was killed.
Yes.
And that was only, as Green rightly says, that was only fatality at the mine through all these years.
He went in first thing in the morning before the engineers had gone in, and he noticed a big lump of rock hanging, you know, and he went to sort it himself with a crowbar and came down on him and just smashed him to bits.
Once you blast it, majority of it is just sand, but you get the odd big lumps in it. You need to, it all goes through a crusher, or 2 crushers in fact, before it gets washed.
We were living over on the other side of the loch, and we would hear the whistle, blowing the whistle after all the men came out at 5 o'clock. And to begin with, you would see them lighting the fuses and seeing the fuse, the light going up the fuse into the hole. And then all of a sudden it would be the blast, and then all the debris was blown halfway across the loch. But that gradually stopped, you know. The deeper it went, the less effect it had on the people outside. They always made sure everybody was out before they blasted. And they always blew the whistle before they set them off.
When I came, they were running the Highlands and Islands Film Guild. Were running a picture show here once a fortnight. And the intervening week, Tenant, the mine company, they supplied a film, and it was on the intervening week, because at the back of the old club they had a cinema, a projection room, and 2 of the local boys, Alistair Connell and John Wilson, they operated the cinematograph there. And it was very good entertainment.
So we had the pictures every week,
So we had pictures every
not
week,
just
right?
the screen machine every now and
I
again.
know.
Every week, and if you were really early, there wasn't a lot of seating in the recreation club, but they had deck chairs. There were 6 deck chairs at the front, so if you were really early, you got into a deck chair with the boy trade.
Oh, you got the back row.
No, it was the front row you went.
Front row, you went.
Not the
That's
back row.
right. It's good fun
Remember
to
the
get.
deck chairs?
It's good fun to get the deck chair. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Tried it many times. Right.
Although there were only 11 people employed when the mine closed, and you know, in the bigger papers and that, you know, 11 people lost their job, that sounds hardly anything. But in a small place like this, the mine was really the focus of the work and employment in Lochaline. So I think everybody's hoping
Yeah.
this is really going to, that they will start. There was a very good meeting when the new firm came, and there was a large amount of people from the village attended the meeting in the hall. They said at the meeting that some of the top jobs would be from their own firm to begin with, which is fair enough, but gradually they would try and hand over, you know, more important jobs locally. So that sort of remains to be seen.
Okay, how would you do it for winding up the show?
Had enough.